When it comes to communicating in business, we know that storytelling strategies simply can't be ignored. But like me, you're also probably interested in and focused on improving your storytelling, becoming a more effective storyteller, and exploring actively how the stories we tell can engage our audiences better. You with me? Let's break this down. G'day, Ben Amos from Engage Video Marketing, and in this video, I want to break down for you the 4 big questions we really need to be asking ourselves when crafting stories for business. These 4 questions will help us be better business storytellers, but more importantly, I feel, help guide the formation of stories with purpose that return on the storytelling investment, so to speak. Okay, question number 1, who is your audience? Now, I've talked about the importance of knowing your audience before, but it really is the most important thing to comprehend in any marketing or communication strategy. By knowing who you're talking to, who the audience is that you're trying to move to take some sort of action, your storytelling becomes more purposeful, more targeted, and more effective. For your particular business story, you need to ask yourself, who am I communicating to here? Is it employees, prospects, or customers? Is it my industry or my market? The audience will determine not only how to tell stories to them, but also what stories to tell to provoke the right reaction and action. Which brings me to question number 2. Now that you know the audience for the story, we need to ask ourselves, what do you want them to do, think, or feel? Being clear on the intended outcome for the story gives the story purpose and ideally measurable accountability to business objectives. You see, it's often a big question in business storytelling as people ask, what's the ROI of story? And without clear and defined objectives for any given story, that answer can be kind of fuzzy. When we're clear on the defined and measurable action that we want an audience to take, then the return on investment becomes clearer. But I mentioned here do, think, and feel. And as I'm sure you recognize, the latter 2 of those 3 are somewhat less directly measurable than the first. It's true, it's often easy to understand how to measure an action when someone does something, clicks a link or buys a product or signs up for a program. But how do we measure the return on investment of changed thought or emotional responses? For me, this can often be clarified through a good old technique called Socratic questioning, by which an answer is derived by asking a series of cascading why questions. All right, let me explain. If it's determined that the goal of a story is to get a new employee in a business to feel more connected with the wider team, then the first answer to the question, what do we want them to do, think, or feel, is simple. We want them to feel more connected to their wider team. But that's not particularly measurable, right? Okay, now for some Socratic questioning. Question, why do we want them to feel more connected? Answer, so we form a strong and supportive company culture. Question, why do we want a strong and supportive company culture? Answer, so people are happy and productive in their work. Question, why do we want employees to be happy and productive in their work? Answer, so we retain good staff and have lower staffing costs.
Question, what kind of bear is best?
Now we see that by using the Socratic questioning technique, we've derived a measurable result to what was initially a somewhat fuzzy metric around feeling more connected. Okay, so question 3, what kind of story should we tell? An employee story where the employee is the hero and the company or organization the guide or mentor along the journey? Or perhaps a customer story, positioning the customer as the hero, perhaps our competition as the villain and an employee or the brand itself once more as the guide, mentor, or companion. Or it could be a personal story, where the teller of the story, perhaps the CEO or the manager, relates a tale of their own early days in the company, or an experience with a particular customer, or perhaps even when they faced struggle in their own life and overcame this to achieve an outcome. Or how about a metaphorical story, a historical story, a symbolic story, or even an illustrative fictional story to embody the desired message? Whatever the story format, with the initial 2 questions around audience and outcome driving the decision here, the story content and structure should reveal itself through this process. And finally, question number 4, we need to ask ourselves, how will the story resonate with the audience? You see, we need our stories to not only entertain and amuse the audience for a short time, but to have lasting impact, be memorable, and create real change. In order to do this, the final question is really critical. How will this story cut through and land in the right way with this particular audience. We need to consider the audience's current needs and desires, what matters to them right now in their current situation and context, what keeps them up at night, what drives decision making for them on a day-to-day basis, and how can we connect our story to that? Do they have any doubts, misconceptions, or preconceived ideas about the message we're wanting to communicate? How can our story respond to that? Or how can we best humanize our story and make it relatable to the people in that intended audience? Remember that an audience is made up of real people in all their complexities, not simply a group of employees in an organization or a demographic spread from a particular customer segment. Real people whom the story must relate to really cut through. All right, so that's it, my 4 questions to better business storytelling. Number 1, who is my audience? Number 2, what do I want them to do, think, or feel? Number 3, what kind of story will I tell? And number 4, how will the story resonate with the audience? I hope these questions help guide your business storytelling and, like me, gives you areas to really focus in on to actively improve your storytelling game. And for more video strategy tips, tricks, and tactics, click that subscribe button and I'll see you in the next video.